I'll start by saying welcome, everybody, for joining today's webinar. My name is Amanda. I'm one of the founders of Legend Real Estate Trust. I've been an investor in real estate for 20 plus years. It's myself and my husband, Marty, and business partner who have created Legend. So, Legend has been created by real estate investors for everyday people who want to invest in real estate. We've also coached in real estate for almost the entire duration of our career as well. And we found that real estate investing can be a little bit tricky for some people. So we wanted to create a really great product that allowed everyday folks to participate in real estate investing from a completely passive, hands-free position. And that's what we definitely kept in mind when designing Legend. So we'll go through today real estate investing, just back to basics. There's a lot of noise out in the industry right now, headlines, etc. So we just want to cut through all of that and just go back to basics and talk about real estate investing today. So I encourage everybody to turn your chat on. We will go through some questions as well. So, or we will take questions, I mean, as well. So you can go ahead and pop your question into either the chat or you can use the Q&A feature too. Today's session will be recorded and sent out so you can watch it again, and just in case you need to pop out a little bit early. So without further ado, let's jump into our content for today. So what we're really going to cover in today's session is why the buy and hold strategy has built wealth over time. So we primarily focus on buy and holds. And we'll also talk about how real estate generates returns through cash flow and equity growth, um, and how Legend provides access to Canadian multifamily properties and what it looks like to invest through a private REIT, how that looks actually in practice. And we'll also go through a practical example on how an investment performs over time. So, in today's session, again, is not going to be anything that is flashy. We're not going to talk about trends. What we are going to focus on is just that proven and time-tested approach, which is sticking to the basics and primarily focusing on buy and hold real estate. So, real estate has quietly and consistently helped Canadians build wealth for decades if it's done properly. So Legend is not reinventing the wheel. We're just helping to, guide investors in the right direction. So talking about the buy and hold strategy. So this is what Legend applies to Canadian multifamily properties. And there's always going to be a need for housing. And at Legend, we focus on Canadian markets that are in high demand, in well-established regions, and that have strong population growth and employment opportunities and stable economic fundamentals. And this is what helps to support that long-term real estate performance. That's how we select where we're going to invest into real estate. Historically, Marty and I have invested in, so we're in Southern Ontario, is our investing market. And historically, we've invested in the city of Guelph and the city of London and the city of Waterloo. So for Legend specifically, our flagship property is in Waterloo, Ontario, which supports all of these let's say these checkpoints that we're looking for when selecting a great market to invest into. So the buy and hold approach is at the core of long-term investing. So real estate is not intended to be a quick and dirty, jump in, jump out, make buckets of money. What we're trying to focus on here is that long-term stable growth. So we're in it for the long term and focusing on buy and hold real estate. So number one, we acquire that quality income producing properties, quality being a very strong point here as well. And income producing. So we really focus on the turnkey buy and hold model so that we can jump right into our cash flow and not necessarily be tied up doing, improvements or value add and renovations to properties. We really focus on turnkey buy and hold real estate. and we hold over that longer period of time rather than flipping properties. So we've never really been big fans of flipping properties throughout our career. One strategy that we used to deploy was a flip to ourself on some smaller projects when we were just getting started. So what that looked like was, you would buy a property, do some improvements, and instead of selling it to somebody else, you could flip it to yourself. So do a refinance and an equity takeout, or you could flip it to a joint venture partner and stay remaining in the deal. Now, on large scale properties and apartment buildings, it just doesn't fit within our risk tolerance to be doing flipping or even large scale renovation. So that's really why we focus on that turnkey model at Legend. Point number three is that there's benefits from that steady rental income that's coming in. So at the end of the day, our business model is very much focused on the income that the properties produce minus the expenses and then having positive cash flow at the end of each month. And we can also capitalize on that long-term appreciation as well. So when we're looking at, the big picture here and overall in real estate, it goes up and down, up and down, up and down, all the way up is how we see real estate trending historically. So we are looking to capture that long-term appreciation within the buy and hold strategy. And of course, leveraging time as that key driver of wealth so that if there are any, blips or dips in the market, as long as you're not selling a property at that time, you haven't lost anything. So again, this is the strength and the power in the buy and hold strategy is that if you purchase a great property and it's an income producing property and you're in a cash flow positive position, holding it for the long term, you're likely to do pretty good on that investment. So, quick data at a glance here. And the chart up on my screen just shows, 40 plus years in the Canadian market. And just as I was describing, up, down, up, down, up, down, all the way up. So even when you see, small, shorter term fluctuations in the market, again, the overall direction of real estate remains in an upward trend. So growth has been driven by those basic fundamentals, population growth, urbanization, and limited housing supply is what pushes those values up. And the long-term house price index in Canada has increased significantly from the 1990s and continues to trend all the way up. So a question here from someone in the chat, long-term meaning how many years? So I would say at a minimum, you shouldn't be looking at any real estate investment with a mindset of anything less than 5 years. So longer term, I would say 5, 10, 15, 20 years, the longer you hold, presumably, the greater the profits in your rental properties and within your investments. But I would say at a bare minimum, 5 years is the shortest time period that you should be considering any sort of real estate investment. And the main reasons why real estate works, number one is the cash flow. So just really capturing the rental income that the tenants are paying in multifamily properties. And then, of course, that equity growth as the property values are increasing over time. Now, with multifamily specifically, there's additional benefits. And with multifamily, that this is really an asset class that hedges against inflation historically. So, we are looking for those tangible income producing investments and that diversification from traditional markets. So, when investors are often investing their RSPs or putting them into public markets, there's often headlines that are causing some, large fluctuations. There's a lack of control or even a lack of visibility to what you're truly invested into. But being an investor into a multifamily portfolio, you gain all of these benefits again of the cash flow, the equity growth, or the appreciation, and that you could expect that the additional benefits that I've just gone through here as well. One other piece that I'm not sure that we've fully captured on this screen or have talked about here is that when you're investing into multifamily, there's an additional benefit to investing into a larger building, say a 60 unit building. So that's the one that we've got currently in Legend. We've got a 60 unit apartment in Waterloo, Ontario. If you've got one or two units vacant in your building, you've got a smaller percentage that is vacant at that time. So, for example, if you've got four vacant units, you've got a 6% vacancy. When you're looking into some smaller properties, for example, maybe a 2 unit property or a 4 unit property, as soon as you've got one vacancy in that building, say in a 2 unit home, well, now you've got a 50% vacancy on your property. And this can be devastating to your numbers. And I know this because I started growing my portfolio using a strategy of investing into smaller properties at that time. So, a quick example, I have a 2 unit home right now where the tenant stopped paying rent about 4 months ago. And at the end of this month, the sheriff is going to be removing him from the property. But he's accumulated 4+ months of non-payment of rent staying at the property and keeping my property vacant 50% of the time. So again, devastating to the cash flow numbers. Whereas if you're a multifamily investor, if you've got vacancy or a tenant who is unable to pay rent at that time, because the percentage is so much lower for those vacant units or those non-paying units, it really helps to soften the blow and kind of blend out those costs across the multifamily property. That one tenant, two tenant, four tenants not paying, or a couple vacancies is not going to completely devastate your numbers. So again, just an extra benefit to being a multifamily investor. And then you can pair that to even investing into a growing portfolio of multifamily properties as well. Just adds that diversification and further mitigates that risk. So if you are considering joining hundreds of real estate investors who have already joined Legend Real Estate Trust or invested into, there are some very specific benefits to our Legend investors. So we provide access to professionally managed Canadian multifamily properties that are focused on that buy and hold strategy and properties that are within a turnkey condition. There are no landlord responsibilities if you're a Legend investor. Our team takes care of all of the work. There's no mortgage approval as well. So often when you're thinking, hey, I want to get invested into real estate, the next step is to qualify for a mortgage so that you can buy a rental property. As a Legend investor, there's no mortgage qualification because Legend has already facilitated the financing and there's nothing for the Legend investor to qualify for from a mortgage approval perspective or even a credit check perspective. So it's easier to penetrate the real estate market as a passive Legend investor. We also give you that access to quality multifamily properties that you wouldn't otherwise be able to invest into. So we pool investor capital so that we can invest into these larger quality multifamily properties. And the asset management is done by me directly and my husband Marty and our team. So we are experienced real estate professionals in the industry for 20+ years. We are investors ourselves and have grown our portfolio from the ground up and have actually invested and worked in the trenches for our 20+ years. And we're also real estate investment coaches for our entire careers. We've been helping others to invest into real estate. So we have designed Legend for Canadian investors who wish to deploy their registered funds into a passive investment or would like to use some of their cash reserves to invest into something like Legend. So the way that our returns are actually generated is through multiple sources. So as we talked about, there's the rental income from the multifamily tenants is the primary way that we generate income. And then for investors, we've got our targeted preferred returns of 8% annually, paid out quarterly. And targeted total returns for Legend investors is 10 to 15% annually. Um, we're expecting long-term equity appreciation and growth within our properties that are in the fund. And investors who wish to reinvest their dividends, we do have what's called the DRIP program available. So that's dividend reinvestment program with a 2% incentive as well. So an example of the investment model is that investor capital is pooled. So Legend pools investors. So right now we've got hundreds of investors who have invested into Legend. We pool the funds and we purchase Canadian multifamily properties. And those properties generate the rental income from the tenants. And that cash flow is distributed to our investors on a quarterly basis. The professional management, myself and my team, we oversee all of the operations, the leasing, the maintenance, the fund management, et cetera, et cetera. That our investors are truly completely passive, hands-free. We do all the work while you benefit through investing. And over time, the property appreciation contributes to overall investment growth. Now, here's our primary team, our core team. Myself, we've already said hello, co-founder, and then my husband, Marty, who's currently keeping an eye on our family. We've got 5-month-old twins and a 5-year-old home from school today as well. So we tag in, tag out while I'm working. He's doing the family thing. But it's the both of us are the co-founders and very much in control and running the business together. And then we have Sam, our investor relations manager. So if you've ever phoned into Legend or you've emailed us or received a text and you've had a text communication, that is Samantha on the other end. So she does all our investor relations, jumps on calls with investors, talks about goals, and it just really informs about what Legend can offer. And we have Christina Marshall, our marketing manager. So if you have seen any ad on Facebook or you've received an email communication from us or a text message, anything that is in the creative space or in the marketing department, Christina is the creative brains behind all of those pieces. And we have Elena as well, our call coordinator. So if you've expressed interest in learning more about what Legend offers, then and you've received a phone call from us or a text message, then it could also be Elena on the other end answering questions that you've got and then scheduling a call with Samantha or with myself. So this is our core team. Again, Legend is built by Canadians for Canadian investors, everyday folks. So if you're curious to learn more and wondering what the next steps would be, let's keep the conversation going is the next step. So there's a QR code that we've pulled up here on the screen, and this is how you can book a one-on-one call with our team. More specifically, Sam is who you'd be booking your call with. So, this is your chance to go beyond the basics and understand how Legend operates in practice and ask us anything that you want to know. We're an extremely transparent organization. It gives you a closer look at how our multifamily properties are selected, how they're managed, what our structure is, etc., and clarification on how those returns are generated through the income and the long-term growth for our Legend investors. And a conversation that is truly tailored to your goals. So just understanding your timelines, your goals in investing, and of course your investment approach, risk tolerance, so on and so forth. and just really just that overall opportunity to dig deeper and to ask those questions to just see, is this the type of investing that could align with your investing goals and, of course, your lifestyle goals as well. So that is the next step. Whoops. I'll leave that up on the screen here, and I'm just going to pop over into the chat. I think we've got a couple questions to answer. So Emma has a question here about tax implications when initially investing, say, an RSP contribution. So when you're investing your RSP, this is a tax sheltered investment. So if you've got an RSP and any Canadian registered account is eligible to self-direct into Legend. So that's RSP, TFSA, LIRA, etc., etc. Any Canadian registered account. So we'll just call it an RSP for, just the overall terminology here. You don't actually cash out your RSP or liquidate it. You self-direct it into Legend. So this keeps all of your tax shelter benefits. So that means that you can use existing funds that might not be performing, or an investment that doesn't have you currently excited, then you can self-direct them into Legend if this type of investing might suit your needs or your goals or your interests. So it's something that we've opened up to make it as eligible to as many Canadians as possible. For tax implications, at the end of the year, we would provide the appropriate T slips, but our accountants have structured it in the most tax-friendly way possible. So you've got that tax shelter in your RSP, or if you're using cash, it's kind of different situation if you're taking your cash flow versus you're going to do the drip. So I would encourage you to schedule a call with our team. Let's talk about your individual situation, but understand that when we structured Legend, we did have tax consultants participate in the structuring of our fund to ensure it is as tax friendly as it possibly could be. So, so yeah, the total value of the portfolio right now. So right now we've got a 60 unit apartment building in Waterloo, Ontario. Purchase price of that was 21,500,000 is our flagship property. We are actively pursuing a second acquisition in our fund, and we're looking to have something under contract very shortly. Right now, it's a great time to buy real estate. It's a buyer's market out there. So we're always in the belief of always be buying, always be growing your portfolio, and we're actively trying to do that as well. So Tom, your other question is, does your return come as interest or return of capital? It is initially considered to be return of capital from an accounting perspective until we've fully utilized our capital cost allowance. So again, we want it to be as tax friendly as possible for our investors. And I'll caveat that with, of course, you need independent accounting advice as well. But that is how we've structured it for initial returns to be the return of capital. Okay, so I'll peek in and see if there's any other questions here. Oh, to start, how much is the minimum investment needed? So great question. So 10,000 is our minimum investment to come into Legend. So we specifically chose 10,000 to make it as accessible to as many Canadians as possible. Often, this type of investing starts at 25 or 50,000 minimum, but Marty and I made the decision to say 10,000. We want to make sure that as many investors can come into Legend as possible. Everyday folks who are just looking to, participate in real estate investing and are looking to do so from a completely passive perspective is who our main Legend investors are. Okay, so yeah, I think what we will do. Oh, Christina's got a question here. Once you've invested, can you top up your investment and does it need to be at the minimum of 10,000? So yes, of course, you can top up your investment. A lot of investors actually do this, that it's part of just their overall portfolio planning that they intend to, come in to the investment with the initial 10,000, and then they've got, another 5, 7, 2,000 that they want to grow their investment with Legend, and you can do so at any denomination after you've achieved that initial $10,000 investment. Okay, great. And what is the initial holding period? So we are looking for a 5-year commitment from our Legend investors. So that just means that if you stay beyond the 5-year period, there's no more redemption fees. If you leave before the 5-year period, then some redemption fees apply. And then Sam has gone ahead and dropped her Calendly link into the chat as well. So again, your next step, let's keep the conversation going and go ahead and book a one-on-one call with Sam, with our team, so that you can ask all of those specific questions, talk about your goals, and just get a deep understanding for what Legend offers. So I do want to thank everybody for joining us on today's session. So thank you very much. I will keep the room open so that you can grab some links that are in the chat, and then also to make sure that you have an opportunity to schedule a call with our team. So thank you again. Enjoy the rest of your day. We'll talk to you later. Bye.